If you know me, you know I hate throwing money in the bin, and bread is a culprit that always ends up in there. So today we are going to make something wintry, delicious, cozy and utterly yum. A Bailey's bread and butter chocolate pudding. Now, doesn't that sound utterly delicious? Unless you live in a household where bread is eaten like it's going out of fashion, there is always a high chance, whether it's that baguette, whether it's that loaf, or whether it's even just some sliced white, that it sits on your bench for a few days, ends up going a bit stale and crusty because you forgot to shut the bag, and then you think, what am I going to do with it? So instead of throwing it away, which I know is often what happens with food waste in the kitchen, today we are going to turn it into something sweet, delicious, gooey and boozy. I mean, what could be more fabulous than that? It's winter here in New Zealand and it's a bit chilly outside, and honestly, I mean, when don't you want a dessert after dinner? But at the moment, I think it's even worse. And I was thinking about winter time, and we had the fire on at home, and well, it just made me think of Christmas in the UK. You know, cold, cozy, and when I was thinking about Christmas, what did I think of? Bailey's. This delicious bread and butter pudding we actually used to make when I worked at the Ivy in London, and I tell you what, it's an absolute banger. Stale bread is perfect for it because actually what happens is it soaks up the custard instead of going soggy and mushy. And as I said, you can use absolutely anything you like. If you had half a sourdough loaf, cut it up into big chunks, mix it all in with your custard, sensational. We're going to go OG classic today because I had some sliced bread that definitely is not looking its best, and yeah, I wanted something sweet to eat. So you know my philosophy, waste less, cook better and save money, and this recipe certainly ticks off all the things on that list. Maybe it's not good for you and it might put a few pounds on the hips, but I tell you what, it will taste delicious. So, you know, cooking better doesn't always mean healthy. It just means something that's going to taste absolutely fab and everyone's going to enjoy. So let's get into this easy, simple recipe of bread and butter pudding with Bailey's chocolate and orange. What is actually great about this recipe is that it's mostly store cupboard things that you might have. Eggs, sugar, milk. I had to go buy some cream. I think that's a pretty good balance of things that I had to things that I didn't. And it means I get to use up this very sad looking orange. I mean, look at this thing. I've already used some of the zest of it, but it is dry. I mean, look at it. I mean, he's seen better days. So we're going to use that up. But that's what's great about this, is it really isn't a complicated recipe. If you want the quantities for it, head to my website. It's in the description box down below. But I think we should get into making this so that we can have a little sweet treat to finish the end of our dinner this evening. It couldn't be more simple as buttering every slice of bread. Make sure that butter is nice and soft so that it's easily spreadable onto your bread. You know, don't be stingy with that butter because yes, this is quite a frugal recipe, but you know, that little bit of extra butter makes everything slightly more indulgent. We're gonna make that custard base super simple. This is where we get to glug in that lovely Bailey's. Ooh, cheeky little tipple. And then we just wanna soak the bread. But what I am gonna do is with some of this, I'm gonna break it up into pieces so that for the top we can make this higgledy-piggledy layer, which just makes everything more exciting. But this is gonna sit for 10 minutes and then we'll come back to it. And so that's it. Everything done. Now I've got my chopped up chocolate here and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit in this middle layer. And as you saw, I poured in some of the mix so it can start to soak into this bread. But then with this top stuff, I've really broken it up. We're gonna soak it in that mix. We're gonna leave this for about 15-20 minutes. And then this, we can kind of pile and scrunch up on the top of this. So not only does it make a lovely texture for the top, it means that some bits get crispy and crunchy and others are in the middle and they're really soaked in with that custard. And oh my God, how good is Bailey's? So I'm just gonna stir this together and we're gonna leave it for 15 minutes. If you're looking for any other great waste videos, make sure you check out my whole playlist. I have got so many things there about saving kitchen scraps and ways that you can use them, whether it's making pantry staples like you might do with bread, and you can make amazing breadcrumbs, but also condiments like onion and garlic salt and exo sauce from veggie skins and scraps. I've got so many things there. Make sure you go check it out. There's some banging videos, and in the link in the description box down below, there's also a link to my website where I've got a whole page dedicated to leftover cooking, or things that you might think are waste and you're putting in the bin, but you could save yourself some money. So make sure you go check any of them out, but we'll let this sit for 15 minutes and we'll be back. 15 minutes later, you can see here the bread. I mean, there's hardly any juice left in the bottom. It's all still holding its shape, but it has soaked up all that delicious custard. So I've turned the oven on. It is preheated, or nearly preheated. Orange light's still on. I actually feel a little bit drunk from that tipple of Baileys. But anyways, there we go. Oven is preheated. And even, you know, even in the base here, very little juice left. It's all soaked up into that bread. That's what you really want, because you want that moisture inside the soaked bread in comparison to the crispy crunchy bits which are on the top. That is the whole joy of bread and butter pudding. And yes, I am offering up a Baileys one. If you don't drink, keep it out. If you don't have orange, don't use it. If you've got raisins and not chocolate, put it in. With all of my recipes, I like to think that they are not only a great suggestion of something you can make, but also, if you don't have something, you can easily replace it with something else. Cooking doesn't have to be so unbelievably rigid, but for instance, the custard quantities can be, but everything else, you just make however you like. So now let's get this piled on the top, all this scraggy custard. Oh my God, this is gonna be absolutely yum. These are just packed full of all that delicious custard. Pile it all up on top. And you know, you can see it's still keeping its shape, but it's so soaked in with all that good stuff. And then bits that are slightly softer, it also doesn't matter. Get that last little bit out of the bowl. This honestly just smells exactly like Christmas. As I said to you, we used to make a version of this when I worked at the Ivy in London, and right now I am just, oh my God, I'm just being completely transported back there. Aren't smells and flavours just the strangest thing? How they just, well, yeah, transport you to somewhere else. Then I've got all that last little bit of chocolate on the top. And what I like to do here is maybe not quite traditional, but I will always add a little extra bit of milk to this mixture, because you still want to make sure that there's plenty of stuff to stick it all together. So just a little bit over the top to make sure that custard runs through, and that, oh, there are plenty of things to be stuck together. I don't think you can go wrong with just a little bit of extra moisture, just like that. You can even hear that it's still soaking that up too. But there'll be plenty of that custard soaked into everything else to make this absolutely delicious, and you won't even realize that that little bit of extra milk got poured on top. And then finally, to finish it off, I like a little bit of brown sugar. You know, there's not actually tons of sugar in the custard itself, so the little bit of brown sugar not only adds them lovely like caramelly notes, but also means there's a little extra bits that will crisp up on the top, and it's just gonna be great. And that is it. That's our bread. Look at that thing. That's our bread and butter pudding. I mean, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. Essentially, it's made from pantry ingredients and something that you might have thrown away. Thing is, with stuff like bread, you know, it's often as you're getting towards the end that you're like, oh, I've not used it and it's gone hard. Put it in the freezer. This is a great dessert to make from accumulation of a few bits and ends of bread. I even use the end of the bread there. It doesn't matter because it's all going to get soaked up anyway. So don't ever think that just because you've got 1 or 2 slices it's not worth putting away. Always pop it in the freezer. There'll always be a use for it, whether it's crumbed on top of your pasta or your delicious peas and onions, made into a bread and butter pudding, or made into that pantry staple that every single one of us uses, and that's breadcrumbs. You can, there are just the possibilities. Let me know in the comments section down below, do you want me to make a video that is is just about all the things that you can do with stale bread, whatever shape or size or cut or difference or loaf or stick or whatever it might be. Let me know, because if you would find it useful, find it helpful, and give you some ideas on what you can do instead of throwing food away, I'm here for it. But it's time to get this in the oven, get it baked, so that we can have a delicious piece of boozy bread and butter pudding. And here it is, the most beautiful bread and butter pudding. It's had 35 minutes in the oven. When I pulled it out, it still had that little jiggle, which means it's not overcooked, and there still should be plenty of that juiciness on the inside. And the best thing is you've got all them little pockets of chocolate, and this is just gonna be next level. So I think the only thing that we can do is get it served up and on the plate. And to finish it off, a little bit of that nice cold cream, because I tell you what, there ain't nothing better than cold cream on a hot pudding. From stale hard bread into a decadent, indulgent, creamy and delicious dessert. Oh, with that hint of Bailey's, this truly is a winter warmer, and that's what waste less, cook better and save money's all about. This is stuff that might have gone in the bin. It's made from pantry staples and is an absolute belter for a winter's evening. Oh my God. Oh, and you know what? Don't ever skip on that little bit of extra milk that you pour on over the top, and honestly turns into just up. This is like the best bread and butter pudding you could possibly make. And that crunchy top with the little bit of sugar, it is just sensational. So that is my boozy bread and butter pudding. You can find the recipe on my website, and make sure you hit the subscribe button here so that you never miss out on any more banging recipes coming out of the Dishes with Del kitchen. I'll see you all soon. Make sure you make this and let me know if you do. Honestly, it might be a bit of an old-fashioned dessert, but I tell you what, it's a classic for a reason. See you later.